Good. All right, so we're continuing off of the hip heist. Whenever you're hip heisting in transition, there's an opportunity to hit the guillotine. Okay, if you already settle into the front headlock, it's going to be hard for you to do it then because they're already going to have their defenses in play, and that's what's going to lead to our next technique, which is taking the back. All right, we always want the dilemma of attacking the choke or taking the back. Only way you're able to do that is if you have an efficient guillotine attack. Okay, so we're going to set this up off of the hip heist. We're not just going to do a standard hip heist, we're just heisting up and passing it to the same side arm. We're going to pass it to the opposite arm. Here. Okay, so I'm going to feed it to my free hand. Okay, so we're hip heisting up. Let's go do a cross snap. I'm going to snap it here. I'm getting my head above his head and his head below my armpit. The way I'm doing that is I'm coming up, it's getting the head height. The snap is what's bringing his head low here. Okay, I'm going to chunk this into sections, but you want to be doing this all at once. Okay, first is getting my armpit over his head. From here, I'm going to start to wrap his neck, and I'm going as deep as possible. I want to reach my knuckles up to his shoulder line. The only way that you're able to get your arm in as deep as possible is taking your ear to his far scapula. So you have his spine, you have his near scapula, you have his far scapula. Okay? So I got the armpit height, starting to wrap. My ear is going to go to that far scapula, and I'm wrapping as deep as possible. I'm looking in this direction, and as you can see here, I'll go over my knuckles are at his shoulder line. You want your palm facing away, almost like you're waving something here. So I'm heisting up, winning head height, winning armpit height, wrapping the neck, ear to the far shoulder, wrapping into here. Okay? Initially, there's some space between my hand and my chest. I want to close that by pressuring in. And while I'm pressuring in, I'm wrapping the arm. We are not going for an arm out grip until the very finish, because if I go arm out here, he knows guillotine defense. He frames on my hips. He rolls to his left. If I'm looking for the top position, that's an okay strategy. But if I want the finish, you have to keep the arm in. Okay? Cross snap. Doing those all at once. Into here. Closing the space. Putting your hand on your chest. Wrapping the arm. I'm going to continue to drive into Joel so that I can come up on my back leg. My back leg is going to step in close to his far knee here. As close as you can. Doesn't have to be there. The same size difference. It might end up on the inside, but that's okay. All right? So snapping here, high risk position, close, arm wrap, pressure in, step up to here. What I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to sit back my butt to the mat. I'm sitting back and I'm going to keep my legs wide so that I can wrap a closed guard. Okay? The finish is going to be taking my elbow to his hips, using my free arm, it's an arm in grip, to grab my elbow. His neck is in this space here. It's got carotid on one side, carotid on the other side, windpipe in the middle. So when you point your hip or elbow to his hips, it lines up everything appropriately. If you grab your elbow, from here you're going to hug everything in and think of doing a bicep curl here. You're just doing a nice slow hug. We're not trying to muscle this finish. It's essentially a front rear naked choke. Okay? So again, heisting, head height, getting a position here, making the connection, getting the arm in grip, pressuring in, stepping up with my back leg, falling back, and locking up the closed guard, preferably on his far hip here. And from here, if you can't grab your elbow, you're just doing a nice slow hug. Keeping everything in here, okay? Another option for the leg grab, I'll do this one a low risk finish just to give Joel a break here. I'm gonna step up. Let's say I can't get my foot as far to his knee, and when I fall back, I land into a closed guard. This is absolutely fine. It's going to be the same finish. You essentially need to wrap up the leg. Because if you do the standard open guard guillotine like this. Joel just frames on my hips with either his hands or his elbows. He tripods and he rolls to his left. And it's going to be hard to come up now, and now I have to do follow-up submissions, okay? So if you want the guillotine, you have to have the legs. Let's try that same thing. Try to roll out. As you see, he gets stopped in the side finish area, which is what we'll cover next video. One more time. Here, make connection, step up, falling back, locking the legs. If you feel like you need extra choking strength here, you can let go and grab the far lat and just hug everything in nice and slow. All I want you to do is to curl in, not extend away, okay? Because the more that you curl in, the more that this space closes. It's going to be the exact same thing if we end up in the half guard position. If they sit back on their heels, from here you can switch to whatever arm out grip you want, but if they're tripoding like he's lifting his hips right now, I'm not going to be able to get an arm in grip, or arm out grip. That's why I'm grabbing the far lat. But go ahead and sit back on your heels, Joel. From here, you can switch to an arm out grip, sorry. You can switch to an arm out grip, either high elbow, McKenzie team, hammer lock, or if your arms are long enough, rear naked choke grip. Personally, it's going to be tendency for them to drive their shoulder in. It's going to be really hard to reach that. That's why I go for that far lat grip, okay?